This is William Ray with Concordia University Television. We're here at UQAM for the conference citoyenne contre le militantisme and la guerre, Quebec. We're here with Raymond Legault, the head of Collective Échec à la guerre. Raymond, what are you doing here this weekend?
We're holding a People's Summit Against War and Militarism, actually at the same time as the NATO countries are having their own summit in Lisbon. This is a coincidence, but it's a pretty good coincidence because these countries are all sort of planning how to extend the war in Afghanistan against the will of their own populations, and we're here to try and I would say reinforce the opposition movement to war and militarism. We know that in Quebec, around 70% of people are opposed to the war in Afghanistan and Canada's involvement in it. In English Canada and Canada as a whole, I think it's been consistently around 56% people opposed to Canada's participation in that war. The conference opened up yesterday night with Jean Bricmont, who is the author of a book called L'Humanisme Militaire, and he's going to he actually makes the case that now war is justified by humanitarian considerations. We're there to defend women, we're there to promote democratic development, etc. Sort of replaced older motivations for war, public motivations, I mean PR type of motivations, sort of we're there to make everybody Christian, or we're there to bring civilization to these savages. So he's looking at war over centuries and saying that now sort of the new type of branding for war is humanitarian motives.
The lack of social funding, the damage to the environment, and the various wars. I mean, does this not all boil down to, at the end of the day, corporate governance of our society?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reasons why we are at war and why the defense budget is, really skyrocketing, and with 490 billion promised over 20 years. I mean, the reasons for that are really because of big business. In 2002, 2003, 2004, the Canadian Council of Chief Executives has been, strongly advocating making Canada's foreign policy much more similar to the U.S. policy, so having a militarization of our foreign policy. And in 2005, with the new foreign policy statement of the Liberals, you had actually sometimes, almost cut and paste expressions from their own documents into the official documents of the Canadian government. They I think, hold these views for two reasons. First of all, many big corporations have a military sector and are interested in getting more contracts because this is a sector of the economy that is developing as opposed to sometimes other economic sectors. And the other reason is the total closeness or almost integration of the Canadian economy with the U.S. economy and the importance of the U.S. market to the Canadian production.
You said earlier, and it's true, that in most of the European NATO countries, and indeed in Canada, the balance of the population, 70-80% in some cases, are against the war in Afghanistan. Why is it that we don't see a larger, on-the-ground, grassroots, people in the street peace movement against the war?
Well, that's a very hard question, actually, and a very important one. I think it's the same for several fundamental issues. I mean, most people are very strongly opposed to the Conservative government stand on environment and on climate change. Yet they don't fill out the streets when Harper is at certain international conferences. I think it has to do with a couple of things. One is the sense of outrage, I don't think, can be sort of maintained consistently over years and years and years. People need to feel, have a sense that they can change things, that by acting there is actually a chance that things will change. Around war, there was huge mobilization in 2003, 2004. That did produce some impact, but that didn't prevent the war in Iraq from taking place, the invasion of Iraq, etc. And after that, you have sort of a, cooling down of the interest of people for that, seeing that they don't necessarily succeed to the extent that they hoped. In Canada, I think the promise of pulling out troops in July 2011 certainly was a factor. People, a year ago, 6 months ago, were saying, well, why mobilize now? Troops are coming out anyway. It's been announced. It's been restated over and over. Actually, now I think people see that there's no truth to these statements. So the statements now that we're really committed to pull to a total withdrawal in 2014. Why would believe in that one? We see more interest in opposing war actively since these declarations were made. I would say another factor, very, very important one, is that war is absent totally from the media radar. I mean, people don't see war. It's a non-existent war except for a few Canadian soldiers that come back dead and the maimed ones that don't get really much media attention anyway. So I think in the Vietnam War it was certainly a factor. I mean, people did hear and see stuff.
There were cameramen on the ground going into combat.
Absolutely, going there and also sometimes going there without the troops and seeing what had happened after so-called collateral damage.
What do you think can be done to actually mobilize popular support to actually effectively influence the government in ending the Afghan conflict in a realistic way?
I don't know exactly whether it's action on each front that will actually mobilize people. Perhaps sort of joining up of forces that are working on the environment, on women, on peace, etc., and trying to connect those issues. And this is one of the main objectives that we have with this summit, to connect war to social programs, to women's issues, to environmental issues, etc., and make sure that these things are included.